This program is proudly brought to you by Telecom Limited, Daytech, and Fishing Industry Association PNG.
Good evening, viewers, and welcome to another episode of Infocus. In this edition of Infocus, we are joined by the Kokoda Track Foundation. In the studio with me, we have its Chief Executive Officer, Jen Nelson, and its Partnership and Engagement Manager, Lydia Dimokari. Ladies, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Good evening, Malcolm.
Firstly, Jen, can you give us a brief historical background of the Kokoda Track Foundation?
We've been operating for 20 years now here in PNG. We had our 20th birthday last year, which was a wonderful occasion to celebrate all the great impact and change that KTF has delivered in remote and rural communities across Papua New Guinea. But going right back to the beginning 20 years ago, we were just a small group of Australians who had all walked the Kokoda Track and had some sort of connection to either the track or to Papua New Guinea or the communities and people of the track, or of course the really important history and that really important story of mateship and friendship that bonds our two nations. And we wanted to give back to the people of Kokoda and more broadly the people who represented the great Fuzzy Wuzzy Angels, the carriers during the Kokoda campaign. And so we set up KTF, just a little NGO. We set up a small scholarship program to support children to go to school along the track, and 20 years later things have really grown from there.
I understand you've conducted various community works and projects in the rural villages along the Kokoda Track. Can you share some of the success stories or examples?
So we've worked along the track and in the broader catchment region for those 20 years now, but we now work right across PNG, and we've taken a number of our programs to scale that we'd love to share some stories around. The main work that we do along the track these days is we built a college in Kokoda, and it was actually at the 70th anniversary of the Kokoda campaign, and we brought up 4 Kokoda veterans, Bede Tongs, George Palmer, Garnet Tobin and Owen Baskett. And I remember it was such an important moment of my life, standing alongside these great men who have shared their stories of that time, those darkest hours during the battles of Kokoda. And we stood side by side, and these gentlemen turned the first sod of the land and the location that we would then build this Kokoda College on. And it was really carved out of the jungle. It's in the community of Koko, which is a 5-minute walk from the Kokoda station. And this leading educational institute has been carved out of the jungle and is very much keeping the spirit of those gentlemen and their colleagues alive. And sadly, we've lost all 4 of those Kokoda veterans since that 70th anniversary. But the Kokoda College is now standing there delivering an education, a second chance high school education in fact, to hundreds and hundreds of people from along and around the Kokoda Track every year.
Now, Lydia, how receptive has the community at Kokoda been to the interventions by Kokoda Track Foundation?
Well, the communities in Kokoda have been very accepting, and so as a result of that, Kokoda College since 2017 has over 1,000 students who have registered and come through the education programs, and last year we saw about 238 students enroll in the Kokoda College and be able to come and get a second chance to education. So that's a great outcome for us. Not only have in the education space, but also in the health space, where we provide healthcare to the aid posts, rural aid posts, and also provide basic medicine for the people in the Kokoda Catchment, but also in Oro. That's been a really big plus for us, but also providing lights to the rural communities and establishing over 16,000 solar lights in the catchment area, but also in the other parts of Papua New Guinea, especially in the western province also, and that also improves the quality of education, the safety of people in rural areas, and also alleviate education, energy poverty in Papua New Guinea.
Now, Jen, a very notable line that's associated with the Kokoda Track Foundation is the line, keeping the spirit of Kokoda alive. Why was this a very fitting line to utilize for Kokoda Track Foundation?
So we've been saying for the whole 20 years now that is our inspiration, to keep the spirit of Kokoda alive, that underpins everything that we do. I was really privileged and lucky to know not only a number of the Australian Kokoda veterans, but also a number of the Fuzzy Wuzzy Angels over my time of running KTF, and it is the work and the commitment and the sacrifice and the endurance. You know, you have these words emblazed on those pillars at the Ishurava Memorial: endurance, courage, sacrifice and mateship. And this is what really drives us as an organisation. But we see it's also beyond the events of the Kokoda campaign. We look to the mateship that might have been forged during our darkest hours along the Kokoda Track, and we look to what does that mean today in current day society, and what does it mean for next door neighbours to be great mates or to be great friends. You know, only 3.6 kilometres separates Australia and Papua New Guinea, and we have a duty to care for one another and to look out for one another. So this inspiration to keep the spirit of Kokoda alive very much drives what we do today, whether it's our development programs along and around the Kokoda Track or in other parts of Papua New Guinea.
Okay. Sustainability is a critical element of any non-government organisation. How are the Sustainable Development Goals being incorporated into the KTF's key programs and initiatives?
Yeah, so we think the Sustainable Development Goals provide a really useful and strong framework to drive and guide good development activities. We particularly fall into the categories of SDGs 3 and 4, those focused on good health and well-being and improving quality education. About 70% of our work is in education, so that is certainly the largest pillar and focus of ours. And we do everything right through the whole circle and spectrum of education. So from early childhood education to the establishment of early childhood centres in schools, right through to improving the quality of primary education, through to the FODE program that we run and setting up second chance opportunities for community members to attain their high school certificate, and all the way on to tertiary education, where we have our Archer Leadership program, but also we've worked in partnership with the PNG Sustainable Development Program to establish a new teachers college over in Western Province in Ballamo, and this year we're really excited that we're going to be pursuing the establishment of a new teachers college in Oro Province as well. So those two SDGs are really critical for us. SDG 5, which is focused on gender equality, is also really important, and I'm sure Lydia could talk to you about our Project Zero. SDG 7 focuses on energy poverty, and this is where our work in solar. We've now installed over 16,000 household solar systems onto homes in remote communities. And then finally SDG 17, which is all about partnerships. We can't do this alone, and we have to rely on really strong partnerships to do this important work.
Thank you, Jen. We now go for a quick break. When we return, we'll look at KTF's initiatives and programs which are aligned with the Medium-Term Development Plan 4. Welcome back to Infocus. Now, Jen, with the launching of the Medium-Term Development Plan 4 by the government, how are you tailoring your existing programs and initiatives to align and complement the MTDP4 and other major government plans and policies?
Yeah, thanks Malcolm. It's a really important thing for us at KTF to make sure that we are completely aligned with PNG government's plans and priorities. And we were really delighted to see the launch of the Medium-Term Development Plan, which is such a strong and all-encompassing document. And a little bit like the conversation we just had about the SDGs, we're particularly focused on the objectives outlined in the plan, numbers 3 and 4, which, like the SDGs, also align with improving access to quality, affordable and accessible healthcare, and then also improving, likewise in education, access to quality education. So in the health space, our health program only operates in Oro and Central provinces, where we work with the Northern Provincial Health Authority to keep really remote and rural aid posts and health centres operating. So we support about 17 aid posts and health centres with capacity support, training for community health workers. We support placements of health workers. We equip the health facilities with drugs and medical supplies. And we work with the NPHA on whatever priorities and areas of need that they identify that need to be focused on in any given year. We also run a health program called Kicks for Kokoda, which works with coaches and also our wonderful friends and partners at the PNG Olympic Committee. And we run a coaching program that uses sports, in particular soccer, but also all different types of sports. We know how sport is really important to young people, and we use that as an education and an engagement tool to work with young people about sexual and reproductive health and improving outcomes in that space. Over in objective number 4, in the education space, again, it's really clear in the medium-term development plan what the government's priorities are, focusing on early childhood education right through to primary and high school and tertiary. We also align really closely with the National Education Plan and the restructure of schooling to 166 or 366 schooling. And all elementary teachers in PNG are currently going through a big upgrading program where they have to re-enrol in FODE in order to upgrade their high school qualifications from a grade 10 level to a grade 12 level. And so this is why we run so many FODE colleges. This year we will have 13 FODE colleges that we're running across Kokoda and the Track, the Western Province with SDP, New Ireland Province, and also in NCD. And these FODE colleges really prioritise helping elementary teachers attain these qualifications that they need in order to remain in the teaching profession.
Are there plans to broaden the scope of interventions outside of health and education as well?
Yeah, so we also work across the pillars of equality and leadership. And in the equality pillar, again, this work is only in the Oro province, but we're delivering a project called Project Zero. And this is a really wonderful collaboration and partnership between the KTF, Family PNG, the PNG Counsellors Association, and also the Oro Department of Community Development. And we're supporting the operations of a number of safe houses in Oro province, but also awareness around family and sexual violence. And I think Lydia, who's been our program manager on this project, can probably tell us a bit more about the impact.
As Dr. Jen mentioned, the safe houses, we support the safe houses, but also ensure that we capacity build the community leaders in the communities. We also try to ensure that we strengthen the referral pathways in providing justice for survivors seeking refuge and fleeing from family and sexual violence, but also providing capacity building for the counsellors so that they are able to be equipped so that they can provide quality counselling to survivors. And so we're providing capacity building for PNG through the PNG Counselling Association so that they can capacity build the counsellors in the rural province in Oro, and also raise awareness so that we minimize and also provide referral pathways and strengthen that in the Oro province.
You mentioned the criticality of partnerships for the Kokoda Track Foundation. Can you give us some notable examples?
So one of the examples that we have along the catchment, and one of the great partnerships that we have, is also one of the highlights of the Food Center established in Mount Koyari, in which last year we saw the first time that the catchment had seen national high school examinations run in the catchment. So the students usually face difficulties when they want to pursue further education because of the rugged terrains, and also the difficulty of traveling to the nearest food center, and so they usually give up. But last year we saw about 41 students who had sat for the national exams, which is a big highlight, and also bringing this education to true partnerships in Mount Koyari, but also in the other parts of Papua New Guinea, where we're providing quality education to second chance students, and they're able to receive that education through a flexible learning and also be able to upgrade their marks.
You mentioned the rugged terrain, which is very much a pressing concern and challenge for a lot of Papua New Guinean-based non-government organizations. What are some other challenges that are confronting the Kokoda Track Foundation?
Well, it wouldn't be a day at KTF if we didn't face a few challenges. It's definitely our specialty. Like you say, the rugged terrain and the really remote location of a lot of these, what we sometimes call last mile communities, and they are our commitment. That's where we are trying to get these services delivered to. But of course, just to access these last mile communities, we're in little planes, we're in dinghies, we're hiking into the jungle to be able to get our lecturers into food centres or medicines into aid posts. It requires a lot of creative thinking, a lot of partnering with local communities, with local government. Of course, on occasion there are security challenges. There are challenges when flights don't run on time. As an NGO, there are funding challenges. We are a typical NGO when we run things on the smell of an oily rag. And of course, there's always financial pressures. But we've just got the most amazing team at KTF, whom are all very, very positive, very resilient, and pretty used to addressing some of these challenges on a day-to-day basis.
It's good you mentioned creative. I'm curious to know, are there any innovative solutions you're implementing within Kokoda Track Foundation's programs and initiatives?
Yeah, most of what we do I would classify as pretty innovative. So we're always looking at where are the gaps? Where are the gaps in some of the government plans that they've not been able to reach, particularly when it comes to last mile communities and getting out into really remote areas. So we're always innovating about how can we do things differently? How can we deliver an education program using technology? How do we firstly get the power source into a location so that we can use technology to innovate? How can we use digital learning in rural classrooms to improve teaching and learning strategies? So yeah, I think a lot of what we do is certainly innovating, and we're just really lucky to work with so many partners who think in a really creative and similar way to what we do.
Thank you, Jen. We now go for a quick break. When we return, we discuss how KTF's Young Achievers program is implemented in PNG. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching In Focus. Now, Jen, your flagship program has been your Young Archers program. How successful has this program been?
Oh, look, I could talk all day about the Archer Leaders program. It's my absolute favourite thing that we do here at KTF. So the Archer Leaders program has been running now for 14 years, and the aim of the program is to find and foster the next generation of young leaders for PNG. And so we take a group of final year tertiary students on what we call a year-long experiential leadership development program. And it really is quite a life-changing opportunity for people who are finishing off their tertiary studies in PNG. It involves mentoring, of course the financial support for tuition fees and boarding fees. It involves an exchange program to Australia, community development placements, work experience, and then of course they go into our wonderful Archer alumni.
Okay. Lydia, as a former alumni of the Kokoda Track Foundation's Young Archers program, what was the experience like?
Well, final year can be really stressful, and you need support, and you need some guidance in transitioning from final year to the from the university to a working space. But most of all, the Archers program helped to build my leadership ability and capacity. It also helped me to go on the first time to Australia for this wonderful experience where we got to meet different organizations, be able to meet the Australian leaders, which was a really great experience, and also a full cultural exchange program, which can also broaden your perspective of leadership and perspective of change in how Papua New Guinea and Australia operate, but also having the access to financial resources that helped me to complete my final year of studies, but also being an alumni and being an archer helped me to also achieve other awards and helped me to build my community projects, helped me to also collaborate with other alumni to build community projects in different provinces and be very focused on social change and how you want to see change. So not only myself have come out of the program feeling enriched, but also having the capacity to give back to the communities in which we're working and collaborating with other Archer alumni so that we can collaborate and see the issues that our communities face, and through the community grants be able to access funds and be able to build projects so that they are tailored to our communities. So that's been a really great experience to be an Archer as a leader, to build capacity, but also to join the alumni and create more partnerships and be able to reach more communities through the projects that we have.
Now, Jen, are there plans to broaden or expand the Young Archers program to other young individuals, not just in universities?
Yeah, look, we're always looking for opportunities to expand and to diversify our partnerships. So we currently have funding for 11 positions on the Archer program every year. We're really grateful to the Fred P. Archer Trust, which is managed by Perpetual Trustees, for funding 5 positions, to Newmont for funding 4, and to Kina Bank, who fund 2 positions. If there's any private sector or corporate partners who would be interested in helping us to take this even further, then please do reach out. It's a life-changing program, and we have many of our graduates and our alumni members who then go and work for our corporate partners, and they go pretty quickly through the leadership ranks because they are poised to succeed.
Finally, where do you see Kokoda Track Foundation in 20 years' time?
Oh, look, it's a really big question, that. And I mean, at the end of the day, as an NGO who's committed to improving lives, livelihoods and futures in PNG, we want to see ourselves out of a job. We eventually don't want to exist because the gap has been closed and because those outcomes have been achieved. But I think over the next 20 years for us, it's going to be really focusing on getting to even more remote and rural areas, making sure that people aren't left behind, making sure these second chance opportunities to engage in high schooling are made available to everyone, that everyone has access to a sustainable and clean source of energy and lighting, and that the quality of education is really improved. And we know that the government is really focused on schools of excellence and making sure that the highest quality teaching and learning program is delivered, not just in the cities, but out in the provinces, in the remote areas as well. And I think KTF has an important role to play in that space.
Jan Nelson and Lydia Dimokari, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Malcolm.
That's all the time we have for this edition of Infocus. Join us again next week Monday for another edition of Infocus. Till then, good night from us.
This program was proudly brought to you by Telecom Limited, Daytech, and Fishing Industry Association PNG.